Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would go ahead and answer the questions that were submitted for my 1,000 subscriber Q&A. I put out a video about a week ago putting basically an invitation for questions if anyone wanted to submit any, and I got some fantastic responses, and so I thought I had waited long enough and I would go ahead and film my answers, or my answers. Thank you so much for sending in questions. It means so much to me. I love doing these Q&A videos, and I quite literally cannot do them without you. And so many of you send in such fantastic questions, and I really appreciate it. So to jump right in, question 1 is from Amanda Schofield. She asks, I have 3 questions. Do you have a favorite beverage, favorite food, and would you consider making longer videos? So for the first part of that question, favorite beverage is hot tea. I am an Earl Grey man myself. I drink probably 4 to 6 cups of hot tea every day. I love it. As far as favorite food goes, I'm really quite easy to please actually when it comes to food, but some of my favorite dishes would be honestly anything pasta based. I love Italian food, but I also love Mexican food and Thai cuisine. I really love so many things. It really just depends on sort of what the event is, what season it is. I have a lot of seasonal favorite dishes. So it really just depends on a lot of things. As for would I consider making longer videos, I absolutely would. So when I first started my channel, my philosophy really wasn't about length. It was more just clicking record and talking until I felt like I had said everything I wanted to say, and really not paying attention to the length of the videos. But now I am starting to want to have some more hefty content, some more valuable content, which typically means longer form videos as well. And so it's definitely something that I've been thinking about for a while, actually, of sort of how to create more deeply developed content that's more valuable and also a little bit longer, but with being longer coming with more value as well. Question number 2 is from Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads, and he asked, have you ever read a book that made you want to throw it across the room? And so for me, honestly, I have not had an experience so far with reading that has made me want to sort of throw the book across the room. I think I'm very lucky in that regard. I also think it's because I am sort of at the beginning of my reading journey. So I really haven't been exposed as much to some of the more irksome reading experiences yet, which I know they are down the road waiting for me. I've just not arrived there yet, which I do feel lucky for, but also I am prepared. I do know that not every reading experience will be a enjoyable or a pleasurable one. But so far for me, really, I haven't had any reading experiences that were sort of so distasteful to me that I'm just like, get rid of this book. I don't want to see it again. But I know that moment and that feeling is certainly waiting for me. Question number 3 is from Jess at Jess Book Girl TV. She asks, who or what got you into reading? If you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 books would you take with you? So for the first part of that, my parents are really the people who got me into reading. My mom has a deep love of literature. My dad has a deep love and appreciation for history and biography. And so the two of them sort of influenced me to be both a fan of literature and a fan of history and nonfiction and biography. And so I really kind of pulled from both of them to become the reader that I am today. So certainly it's my parents that I give full credit to, as well as teaching me to read, but also just for their own independent loves of reading and of history that sort of instilled in me the love that I have today. As for 3 books, if I were stranded on a desert island, I have a lot of trouble answering these questions because I feel it's so hard to bake down favorites to only 3. So I'm going to just answer sort of with what I came up with right off the top of my head, and that would be John Steinbeck's East of Eden, because I've already read it 3 times in the last year and a half or so. And every time I read it, I find something new in it, and it's just such an incredible scope of a novel. And so I feel that I could continue to read that and have new experiences every time. Then I would also pick Don Quixote by Cervantes. I have only read it twice, but it's one of those that it's obviously a classic and obviously such a fundamental piece of literature, and quite revolutionary when it was first introduced to the world. But I feel it has such a wonderful mix of genres and a wonderful mix of textures and sort of an all-encompassing story that it could be reread over and over again without becoming stale. And then I also would take The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, which I read for the first time last month and was completely floored by it, completely blown away by it. Again, it is one of those types of novels that I believe is sort of meant to be reread and reread and reread. And so upon a first reading, you get sort of the first taste of everything that novel provides. And then as you read it more and more, and it sort of ages with you and you age along with it, you find more and more value in it. So I'm really excited to reread The Brothers Karamazov in December. I believe there's a group read being hosted on BookTube in December for The Brothers Karamazov, which I will certainly be taking part in to get my second reading. And then for nonfiction, I would take, so if I could pick between these two genres, my three for nonfiction would be The Bully Pulpit by Doris Kearns Goodwin, which looks at sort of the interrelationship between Teddy Roosevelt and Taft, as well as sort of the golden era of journalism. It's a really interesting study. David McCullough's biography of Harry Truman is one of my all-time favorite biographies. I would absolutely take that. I read that, I think, 3 times through, and it's a big thing of a book, so it would keep you entertained quite a while on a desert island. And then Robert K. Massey's biography of Catherine the Great, I would have to take along with me as well. It is one of my all-time favorite biographies. I read it for the first time last year, and I'm hoping to reread it soon. It is one of those biographies that just the scale and the scope of the subject's life is just so enthralling and so engaging already, and then you throw on top of it the incredible writing and presentation of Robert K. Massey, and it makes for an exceptional reading experience that is just incredibly entertaining as well as informative, which is everything you want out of a great biography. Let's see, question number 4 is from Michael Clark. My question is, as someone who reads primarily nonfiction, was that true also when you were a kid? And were there any nonfiction book titles when you were young that were favorites? And so there were, and actually most of the nonfiction titles from when I was younger and first starting to read biographies and history was actually David McCullough's book 1776. I read it for the first time, I think, when I was about 11, and obviously I was 11, so my comprehension level was not fantastic, particularly with a more advanced subject matter. But I remember just being so interested in the fact that everything I was reading had actually happened, and I thought that was so cool. So David McCullough's 1776, as well as his biography of John Adams, were 2 that I read really, really early on, as well as Mornings on Horseback, which is his biography sort of the early life of Teddy Roosevelt, which is exceptional. And so those were 3 that then I reread when I got a little bit older, but those had all had all been introduced to me very, very early on. My dad is a big David McCullough fan, and so we had all of his books up in our family up on our family bookshelves, and so I would always be grabbing those down and trying my best to read them and understand what was going on, which I succeeded in for the most part. Question number 5 is from Angela405, who says, since you love biographies, and so do I, what are a few of your favorite historical biographies written about figures from the U.S. Revolutionary War era? They need not be founding fathers, but can be if that is your preference. Just from that era, thanks. So for me, the most recent biography that I read about a sort of figure from the Revolutionary War period was The Forgotten Founder by Josiah Kendall. And I believe I talked about this in one of my weekly wrap-up videos that I did a while ago, but this is a biography of Noah Webster, sort of the founding father of the American dictionary. And it is a great read. It analyzes Noah Webster's life fairly heavily, but really where I was the most fascinated with it was its dive into lexicography and sort of the science, or lexicography and the science of basically word defining and the assembling of dictionaries. It's a really, really interesting book. It also goes into a lot of sort of the mental makeup of Noah Webster and analyzes a little bit or a lot of sort of his personality and how his personality affected the way he worked and affected sort of his ability to become hyper-focused on one task, such as word defining. It's a really great read, and it sort of interplays perfectly with the period, as Noah Webster had direct communication with Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, George Washington, James Madison, and a lot of the other sort of core founding fathers. So it's definitely one that I would recommend. It's also not very long. I believe it's under 400 pages, and so it doesn't take an incredibly long time to read, which is really nice. Question 6 is from Tanya. How did you work up the courage to face the camera and start your BookTube channel? Or were you very confident and comfortable and didn't have any camera consciousness? And do you think of this more as a hobby or plan to make some sort of a career out of it? So for the first part, to answer the first part, I was very nervous when I first started my YouTube channel, and I definitely had camera shyness. The way that I sort of overcame it, decided to stop worrying about it and start it, is I basically told myself I want to just do this. I want to stop worrying about it. I had really been concerned about equipment and cameras and that kind of thing, because I was like, all I have is my phone. I'm not going to be able to make a good quality video. And so I just told myself, just go to your room, sit down at your desk, turn the camera on, and talk for 10 minutes or whatever. And so that's what I did. I got home from work one day and I just pulled up the questions to the BookTube newbie tag. I sat down, I filmed it, and I posted it. Basically didn't give myself any time to re-watch the video or any time to worry about if I should edit it or anything like that. I just filmed something and I put it out there just to say, I just have to start somewhere. And it was definitely incredibly nerve-wracking, but I'm glad that I did it so quickly, and just sort of sat down and turned the camera on and started talking, because I think it really helped me get over the hurdle. I think that if I had just continued to let myself ruminate and ruminate for days and weeks on end, I might not have ever started my YouTube channel, because I probably would have just psyched myself out. And I'm still a little bit camera nervous or uneasy sometimes when the camera's going, and I definitely think I'm getting better as my channel goes on. But there's definitely something sort of strange about the idea of sitting down in front of a phone or in front of a camera and just talking, where you're talking to yourself, but you're also talking to an infinite group of people, because you're putting it on the internet. And so it's definitely sort of a strange feeling of being alone while you're filming it and talking to yourself, but also a little bit of performing. And so it's definitely kind of a weird combination. And then for that last part, let me see. Do you think of this more as a hobby, or do you plan to make some sort of a career out of it? So at the moment, I definitely consider it more of a hobby. However, in the future, if I was ever able to grow my channel to a point where I was able to start making some sort of a side income from it, I certainly would be very interested in pivoting towards that. At the moment, I'm trying just to enjoy the process of filming my videos and interacting with other BookTube creators, and not putting a whole lot of stress on it or a lot of emphasis on trying to form it into something that could be a career, and instead just sort of enjoy the moment of it. Where then if it starts sort of pivoting towards something that could resemble a career, I would certainly go for it. But I'm trying just to be relaxed with the process and just enjoy the ride of it. Question number 7 is from Music Room. So my question is, do you anticipate a career directly related to reading books literature? Or do you think your reading will have more of an indirect effect on your future career by giving you a larger knowledge base in various subjects. So I think down the road, I would certainly love to have my career being something that centers around reading and books and writing and that sort of thing. And I do see myself in a career that uses some of those aspects in the future. But I also just want to make sure, sort of like this question ends with, that my reading just helps me in whatever career I end up in, just by giving me, by giving me a bigger knowledge base, just like the end of the question says. So I'm not putting a whole lot of stress on having to have a career that is directly related to reading and directly related to making these videos or writing about books necessarily, but more trying to focus on how to use those skills that I have and do those things that I enjoy in whatever career I end up in, to both make my work better, but then also just making my life better by having these great elements in it. I hope that makes sense. Question number 8 is from Grace. Have you ever been in a reading slump where you just can't get into anything? If so, what are your tips for getting out of it and enjoying reading again? So I've definitely been in a couple of sort of reading slumps before, where I start reading a book and it's just not super interesting, so I put it down and I pick something else up, but that's not very interesting either. And I might go for a couple days where I'm really not reading more than just a handful of pages here or there. Typically what I do to get out of a reading slump like that is I go and reread something, maybe a short story or a short novel or a shorter piece of nonfiction, something that's not going to take me very long and that I know I really love. And typically revisiting something like that sort of reignites the spark of reading for me, and then enables me to get back into reading. Or sometimes it's really great just to take a little bit of a break and go do something else. So if you're not feeling reading one day, go listen to music, go for a walk, go do something something artistic, or go organize something or clean something, and just give your brain some time to sort of clear out. Because I think sometimes we overload our minds with so much data that occasionally it needs sort of a breathing period to just relax and not have any inputs. And so sometimes my reading slumps will come from if I had a couple of days where I was really intense on my reading and just cramming my brain full of a bunch of information, a bunch of data, and then it needs a little bit of a resting period to sort of sort out everything that's been stuffed in there and organize it out to then be able to receive more information. So my biggest tip would probably be that when you feel you're in a reading slump, don't force reading to come back, and take as much time as you need to do something else, and sort of let your brain clear out, and then sort of naturally the reading inclination will be born anew. Question number 9 is from Britta Bowler. I would love to know more about you outside of BookTube. Work, school, hobbies, family, as much as you're willing to share. So as far as, I'll just kind of go in order here of the categories in the question. So as far as work, I am in a new position now, a new job that I started on Tuesday of last week, and I'm really enjoying the position. I'm a shipping specialist for a warehouse company, for a tarp company that services the trucking industry with parts for the tarping systems of dump trucks or large flatbed trucks for transporting cargo. So I work in a warehouse. I work with a great team of other shipping specialists and inventory managers. And I just started, so I'm very new. I'm still in training for the system, but it's a location that's very close to my house. It's also very similar to the position that I had at my previous job, which is fantastic. So I'm already used to some of the fundamentals of the position, which is really great. That has made for a very smooth transition from my last job to this job. So that's been going really well. As far as school, I am temporarily taking a break from my college studies. I graduated high school in 2021, and then I did 2 semesters at a local community college, and decided to take a little bit of time and get a full-time job, and start saving up some money while I'm figuring out sort of what I want to do with my future. I thought that while I was thinking, I might as well be working and making money as well. And so that's sort of my philosophy behind those decisions. As far as hobbies go, outside of reading, I play guitar. I like playing guitar and singing. I do a little bit of other instruments. I play a little bit of piano. I play a little bit of drums, but primarily guitar. I also love doing outdoorsy things. I love hiking. I love just walking my neighborhood. I walk my neighborhood at least once a day. I love walking it twice a day if I can, either listening to music or listening to an audiobook. Camping, anything outdoors, I love. I also really enjoy cooking, which I've talked about a little bit on my channel before. And so I like to cook dinners whenever I can. As far as my family, so I have 2 other siblings. I have a 21-year-old sister, and I have a 15-year-old sister, and then my mom and my dad. So I am right in the middle. We're a super tight family. We absolutely love being together. We are sort of all each other's best friends, and so we do a lot of stuff together. We've traveled a lot together, and we all sort of support each other's interests. I am probably the biggest reader in the family, but my whole family does read, and so some of my favorite family memories are when we were all younger, sort of sitting around in the living room at night reading aloud. My mom would read to us from different classics for a couple hours every night, which was absolutely fantastic. And I think that those moments are what really instilled the love of reading and sort of the power of storytelling in me, and definitely in my 2 siblings as well. Question number 10 is from Jolene over at Bookworm Adventure Girl. She asks, what are your favorite videos to make? What are your favorite videos to watch? And what's one thing that has surprised you about BookTube? So as far as my favorite videos to make, I think that my most favorite videos to make are tags. I love seeing the tags that people have created. I love sort of the communal aspect of tags, by being able to tag other people in your videos and then be able to hear, your fellow creators' answers to the question that you answered. I think it's really fun, sort of community, a fun communal way for everyone to get to know each other. And it's kind of cool to have, to have years go by where people can be doing these same tags, and they grow along with the creators, and new booktubers come and do old tags, and it's a really fun atmosphere, I think, when doing tags. As far as my favorite videos to watch, I love watching absolutely everything. If I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be when people do library tours or bookshelf tours. I love seeing people's home libraries. I love seeing how people organize their books and where they keep their books, and sort of the very physical element of books in people's lives. And then I also really love wrap-up videos and currently reading videos, seeing what people are reading, hearing people's thoughts on books. I've been exposed to so many new genres and so many new authors and titles that I never would have picked up otherwise, that have been really fantastic additions to my reading. And that's really my favorite thing about BookTube is sort of the fresh exposure, seeing things you wouldn't see otherwise, or hearing of books that you probably wouldn't have heard of otherwise. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And then the last part of that question, what's one thing that has surprised you about BookTube? I think probably the one thing that has surprised me the most about BookTube is just honestly the fact of how large it is and continually growing. I started watching BookTube about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I wasn't super involved, but just sort of watching here and there. And then when I got involved in February with my channel, really in my mind it was something that wasn't as large as it actually is, and it's such a fantastic community. And then the other thing that has surprised me about BookTube is just the acceptance of all of the channels, and large channels doing collaborations with smaller channels, and people giving shout outs to other channels and other content creators. It's just such a welcoming community, and there's really no hierarchy, or there's no sort of seniority taking place at all. Everyone is sort of right on the same level with everyone else, regardless of years spent on BookTube, or regardless of the size of their channels. And it just creates such a welcoming atmosphere, which I knew it was going to be welcoming, just based off of the videos that I had seen. But when you're in it and when you make your own videos, it's just incredible to see sort of how open people are to new channels and to helping out new channels. And it's just an absolutely wonderful thing. So that is the final question. Thank you again, everyone, for sending in such fantastic questions. I really appreciate it. I love doing these Q&As, and you guys sending in questions makes it happen. So thank you so much. That's all for today. If you have any comments you'd like to leave down below, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, and happy reading.